Milo had always loved the calm of nature. After a long week of work in the city, he looked forward to the weekends at his small cabin by the lake. The lake was quiet and wide, surrounded by tall trees that whispered in the wind. Birds sang as the sunlight danced on the water, and sometimes a deer would come down to the shore to drink. Milo felt free here. There were no cars, no loud noises, and no rules except the ones he made for himself. The cabin was simple. It had a small wooden frame, a sturdy roof, and a porch where Milo could sit and watch the water. Inside, there was a bed, a small kitchen corner, and a desk where Milo sometimes wrote in his notebook. He had built it himself a few years ago. He liked the simplicity of it. There was no electricity, only a lantern for light and a small stove for cooking. Milo always said it was the perfect place to remember what really mattered. One Friday evening, Milo arrived at the cabin carrying firewood and some fresh vegetables. He placed the bags on the porch and took a deep breath. The air smelled of pine and fresh water. He smiled, feeling the tension of the city slowly leave his body. He walked down to the lake, feeling the soft grass under his feet. The water was calm, reflecting the orange and pink colors of the sunset. Milo could hear the gentle lapping of the waves against the shore. Milo decided to light a small campfire. He stacked some dry wood in a safe spot near the shore, far from the trees and tall grass. He placed a bucket of water next to it just in case. He struck a match and the fire began to glow, small flames rising and crackling softly. Milo sat on a log nearby and roasted some corn. The smell of the fire mixed with the fresh air, and Milo felt completely relaxed. He watched the smoke drift into the sky, twisting and turning before disappearing into the evening light. He thought about the week he had just left behind. It had been busy and tiring. Work was demanding, emails never stopped, and the city felt too crowded. Here, at the lake, none of that mattered. Here he could breathe, think, and simply exist. Milo watched a fish jump from the water and heard the distant call of a bird heading home to its nest. Everything felt perfect, but peace is sometimes noticed by those who want control. Across the lake, there was a new neighborhood. Houses had neat lawns, white fences, and freshly painted doors. People there were proud of their lawns and gardens. They had a homeowners association, or HOA, that set strict rules about everything. Every fence, every hedge, and every paint color had to be approved by them. The HOA managed the neighborhood, carefully, ensuring everything looked perfect according to their rules. One of the residents in that neighborhood happened to look out the window at the right moment. They saw a flickering light across the lake. It was Milo's campfire, small and carefully made. The neighbor frowned. They did not know Milo or the lake. They only knew that something was happening near the water. Without thinking too much, the neighbor called the HOA office to report it. They described a dangerous fire near their neighborhood, even though Milo was far away and not on their property. Within a few minutes, the HOA manager was on the phone. They were concerned about the rules being broken. Even though the fire was not in their neighborhood, the manager was worried that it might be unsafe. They decided to call the police to make sure everything was fine. The HOA office staff were careful to sound professional, but there was tension in their voices. They wanted to act quickly to prevent any possible problem. Milo had no idea this was happening. He was enjoying his fire, listening to the soft sounds of nature and thinking about dinner. The corn was turning golden brown, and the smell made him hungry. He had just taken a bite when he heard the sound of cars approaching. At first, he thought it was someone else visiting the lake, but the cars stopped at the edge of the water, and 2 police officers stepped out. Milo froze for a moment, unsure what to do. He stood up slowly, keeping his hands visible. He wanted to appear calm and respectful. The officers walked toward him carefully, eyes scanning the area. Milo noticed their badges and understood they were there because someone had called them. He felt a little nervous, but he also knew he had done nothing wrong. "Good evening, sir," one of the officers said politely. "Do you know this area is under HOA rules?" Milo blinked. He was confused. I don't think so. This lake is public land. It is not part of any HOA. I just came here to relax." The officers looked at each other. They seemed unsure. Milo explained where he had parked his car and how he had chosen a safe spot for the fire. He showed them the bucket of water nearby and described how he planned to put the fire out before leaving. The officers listened carefully, asking questions but remaining polite. Milo could see that they wanted to make sure nothing was dangerous. After a few minutes, the officers called the HOA manager. They spoke in low voices, occasionally glancing at Milo. The manager insisted that Milo was violating some rule, but Milo calmly repeated that the lake was public land and he had checked carefully. The officers listened to both sides, asking more questions and looking at the area around the fire. Finally, after what felt like a long time, the officers decided that Milo was not breaking any law. They explained that he had the right to be on public land and to have a small fire if it was safe. They warned him to continue being careful with fire, and they left. Milo felt a rush of relief. The tension melted away, replaced by the familiar calm of the lake. After the police left, Milo sat down on the log again. The fire crackled softly, and the smoke rose into the sky. He thought about how strange it was that someone could worry so much about a fire that was not even on their property. Milo shook his head, smiling slightly. He understood that people sometimes act quickly out of fear, but he also realized the importance of knowing the truth about property and boundaries. He roasted more corn and watched the sunset turn into night. The sky was filled with stars and the lake reflected them like a mirror. Milo felt peaceful again. He knew he was on the right side of the law and nature. The fire continued to glow gently, and Milo promised himself he would always be careful, respectful, and observant. As he prepared for bed in the cabin later, Milo thought about the day. It had started as a simple evening by the lake, but it had turned into a lesson in patience and calm. He realized that not everyone understood boundaries or the difference between public and private property. Knowing the facts and staying calm could prevent unnecessary conflict. Milo went to sleep with the soft sounds of the lake outside, ready to face whatever the next day might bring. The night was quiet, and the only sound was the gentle lapping of the water. Milo dreamed of the lake, the trees, and the fire glowing softly by the shore. He knew this place was his escape, his sanctuary, and his reminder of what it meant to be free. The next morning, Milo woke to the sound of birds singing and the soft rustling of leaves in the wind. Sunlight poured across the cabin floor, and the air smelled fresh with dew. Milo stretched and stepped onto the porch. The lake shimmered in the early light, peaceful and calm as if nothing from yesterday had disturbed it. He smiled and decided to make some tea over the small stove before planning his day. As he sipped his tea, Milo noticed something unusual. Across the lake, at the edge of the neighborhood with the neat lawns and white fences, 2 cars were parked. Milo squinted. They were police cars. His heart sank slightly. He had thought the night was over and that the police had left. Why were they back so early? Milo grabbed a jacket and stepped carefully toward the lake. He wanted to greet the officers politely and explain himself if needed. As he approached, he saw 2 uniformed officers walking toward him from the cars. Milo raised his hand slightly, keeping them visible, and smiled politely. "Good morning, sir," one officer said. "We received a call from the HOA again. They reported that there might be a fire here." Milo remained calm. "Good morning. I understand. There is no fire now, and yesterday I had only a small campfire carefully managed. This lake is public land, not part of the HOA. I came here to relax and enjoy nature." The officers nodded, but they still looked cautious. They had a duty to check the complaint, and Milo understood that. He pointed to the shore around him and the wide water. "You can see there are no houses or structures nearby. The fire is safe and under control. I also have water ready in case of any problem." The officers looked around carefully. They noted the distance from the neighborhood, the open space, and the absence of any hazards. One officer took out a notebook and started writing details. Milo remained polite and calm, explaining his routine visits to the lake and the steps he took to stay safe. "We need to call the HOA manager to confirm some information," said the first officer. Milo nodded. He understood their caution. The officer made the call while Milo waited quietly. The air was cool, and the soft breeze carried the smell of fresh water and pine. Milo took a deep breath and tried to stay relaxed. The second officer asked, Do you know the exact boundaries of the HOA? Milo smiled. Yes, I checked the property maps a long time ago. This lake and the surrounding area are public property. The HOA does not own this land. Their property stops at their neighborhood boundary across the water. The officers listened carefully. Milo explained that he had verified this with the town office and property records. He could see that they were starting to understand, but their job required them to confirm every detail. The officer on the phone spoke with the HOA manager. Milo listened quietly, respecting the process. The manager insisted that Milo's fire could be dangerous, but Milo calmly repeated that he had used proper safety measures. He described the bucket of water, the distance from trees, and how he always made sure the fire never got too big. The first officer hung up the phone and turned to Milo. Sir, we have reviewed the situation. According to the property maps and town records, this area is indeed public. You have taken safety precautions. No laws are being broken here. We will inform the HOA of this information, but you should continue to be careful with fire at all times. Milo felt a rush of relief. He thanked the officers politely and nodded. Thank you for checking. I will make sure to be careful. The officers smiled politely and returned to their cars. Milo watched them leave, the gravel crunching under their tires as they drove away. Once they were gone, he felt the tension that had been lingering in his chest disappear. He took a deep breath and returned to the small spot by the lake where he had set up his campfire yesterday. Milo thought about the events of the past day. He had come to enjoy nature and ended up in an unexpected confrontation. Still, he reminded himself to stay calm. Panic or anger would not help in situations like this. He decided to spend the rest of the morning quietly by the water, observing the small details of the lake. A fish jumped out of the water and the ripples spread across the surface. A family of ducks swam near the shore, quacking softly. Milo smiled, feeling at peace again. After a while, Milo walked back to his cabin and made a small breakfast. He had eggs, fresh bread, and tea. As he ate, he thought about the HOA and their reaction. It was strange to him that they could worry so much about something that was not even on their land. He realized that not everyone understood boundaries clearly, and some people acted quickly out of fear or habit. Once he finished breakfast, Milo decided to take a short walk through the trees around the lake. He wanted to enjoy the morning and clear his mind. The path was narrow but soft under his feet, lined with ferns and small flowers. Birds chirped, and the gentle sound of water followed him wherever he walked. Milo felt grateful for this quiet place, far from the busy city and strict rules he encountered every day. As he walked, Milo noticed some footprints near the lake. They were fresh, probably from someone who had walked along the water early in the morning. He smiled to himself. It was a reminder that many people came here to enjoy nature, and that the lake belonged to everyone who wanted to appreciate it. Milo felt proud to be a small part of keeping this place peaceful and safe. Returning to the cabin in the late morning, Milo decided to prepare for a proper campfire later in the day. He carefully arranged wood in a stack, keeping a bucket of water and a small shovel nearby. He planned to show that fire could be safe if handled responsibly. He also thought about sharing this knowledge with others who might visit the lake, helping people enjoy nature without creating risks. Around noon, Milo heard some voices in the distance. He looked toward the path and saw a small group of hikers approaching. They smiled and waved when they noticed Milo. He waved back and greeted them warmly. "Hello, enjoying the lake?" one of them asked. Milo nodded. "Yes, it's beautiful this time of year. Be careful near the water and the fire areas." The hikers thanked him and continued down the path. Milo watched them go, feeling happy that people respected the place and followed simple rules. It reminded him that nature could be enjoyed safely when everyone took care of it. By late afternoon, Milo returned to the lake with everything ready for a small fire. He struck a match and the flames danced gently, casting a warm glow on the nearby water. Milo sat on a log and roasted some vegetables, watching the sunlight sparkle across the lake. The peace and calm returned fully. He thought about yesterday, the HOA, and the police. He realized that knowledge, patience, and respect could resolve almost any conflict. As the sun slowly set, painting the sky with shades of orange, pink, and purple, Milo reflected on the day. He felt grateful for this quiet lake, for the freedom to enjoy it, and for the gentle lessons life had offered him. He knew that tomorrow might bring new challenges, but he was ready to face them with calm and understanding. Milo stayed by the lake until the stars appeared, twinkling like tiny lights in the sky. The water mirrored the night sky, creating a beautiful reflection. He felt at peace. The small campfire burned safely, and the world seemed perfect for a moment. Milo knew that this lake would always be his place to relax, think, and remember what truly mattered. The next morning, Milo woke early, as he often did, to the gentle sounds of the lake. Birds sang cheerfully in the trees, and the water shimmered under the rising sun. Milo felt calm and focused, but he could not stop thinking about the HOA and their unusual reaction. They had called the police over a small campfire on public land. Milo had followed all the rules, stayed safe, and yet their fear or misunderstanding had caused unnecessary trouble. He knew he needed to understand more about their actions. After breakfast, Milo packed a small notebook, a pen, and a few maps of the area he had collected over the years. He wanted to review everything carefully. Milo was methodical, and he believed that knowledge was the best way to prevent misunderstandings. He walked down to the lake with his supplies, sat on a log, and spread out the maps. He looked first at the boundaries of the HOA neighborhood across the water. The lines were clear on the maps. The neighborhood stopped far before the edge of the lake. There were no fences, no markers, no signs of HOA property near where he had built the campfire. Milo smiled slightly. The maps confirmed what he had known all along. The HOA had no authority over this part of the lake or the surrounding land. Milo decided to take a walk around the lake to see the area from another perspective. He wanted to be sure there were no hidden signs or rules he had missed. As he walked along the soft paths, he noticed the trees swaying gently, the grass sparkling with morning dew, and small flowers that grew along the water's edge. Milo loved the quiet beauty of this place. Each step reminded him why he valued this lake so much. While walking, Milo noticed some footprints near the shore. They seemed recent, but he recognized they were from local hikers who often visited the lake. No signs of anyone from the HOA appeared. Milo felt reassured that this place remained public and open. He carefully noted the footprints in his notebook, adding observations about the paths, trees, and distances from the nearest neighborhood houses. Milo wanted to document everything clearly. When he returned to his cabin, Milo made a plan. He decided to contact the town office to verify all property boundaries officially. He knew that having official documents would strengthen his position if any further complaints arose. Milo also thought about writing a polite letter to the HOA, explaining the situation, but first he wanted the facts in hand. Milo walked to the small town office carrying the maps and his notebook. He met with a friendly clerk who welcomed him warmly. Milo explained that he needed to confirm property boundaries for the lake and surrounding land. He wanted to know exactly where public land ended and HOA property began. The clerk smiled and pulled up official records. She showed Milo the land deeds, maps, and survey documents. Milo studied them carefully, comparing the official maps with his own notes. Every detail matched. The lake and the surrounding area were public property. The HOA neighborhood ended several hundred feet away across the water, with no legal claim to the lake itself. Milo felt satisfied. His careful observations were now confirmed by official records. On his way back to the cabin, Milo thought about the HOA manager and their insistence that he was violating rules. He realized that many people acted out of habit, fear, or lack of knowledge. Milo believed that if the HOA had checked the property lines before calling the police, the situation could have been avoided. Still, he stayed calm. He decided to handle the matter politely and professionally. Back at the cabin, Milo sat at his small desk with the maps and documents spread in front of him. He started drafting a letter to the HOA. He kept his tone respectful and factual, avoiding any anger or accusations. Milo wrote clearly that the lake and surrounding land were public property and that his campfire had been small, safe, and responsible. He attached copies of the maps and documents from the town office to support his points. Milo also suggested that the HOA double-check their boundaries in the future before taking action. He did not want to create conflict. He only wanted to prevent misunderstandings and ensure that everyone knew the truth about the property lines. Milo believed that calm communication was better than arguments or complaints. After finishing the letter, Milo took a break by the lake. He sat on a log near the water and watched the sunlight dance on the surface. The fire from yesterday had long since burned out, but Milo imagined a small campfire glowing safely by the water. He thought about how people could enjoy nature responsibly if they had clear information and patience. Milo decided to write a short guide about campfire safety and public land rules. He wanted to share it with visitors to the lake, helping everyone enjoy the beauty of nature without conflict. In the afternoon, Milo walked back toward the HOA neighborhood across the water. He stayed on public paths but observed the area quietly. The neighborhood looked neat and orderly, with trimmed lawns and white fences. Milo noticed some children playing and a few neighbors gardening. Everyone seemed busy with their daily routines. Milo took notes carefully, observing the distance between the lake and the neighborhood. The HOA's property clearly ended far from the shore. Milo smiled to himself, satisfied that he had accurate observations to support his position. As Milo returned to the cabin, he thought about the lessons of the past few days. He realized that understanding boundaries and knowing the facts was more important than arguing or becoming angry. He also understood that patience and careful observation could prevent problems before they began. Milo felt grateful for the quiet wisdom of the lake, which taught him not only how to enjoy nature but also how to navigate conflicts calmly. That evening, Milo decided to light a small, safe campfire again. He prepared the wood carefully, keeping a bucket of water and a small shovel nearby. He lit the fire gently and watched the flames rise. Milo sat on a log, roasting corn and vegetables as he reflected on the investigation he had conducted. The fire was small and controlled, and the smoke drifted gently across the lake. As the sun set, Milo felt a sense of satisfaction. He had handled the situation calmly, confirmed the facts with official documents, and taken steps to prevent misunderstandings in the future. The lake remained peaceful, the air was fresh, and the soft sounds of water and wildlife surrounded him. Milo realized that even when others acted hastily or without full knowledge, he could maintain his calm and act responsibly. That night, Milo slept soundly in his cabin, listening to the gentle lapping of the water against the shore. The lake reflected the stars above, a mirror of quiet beauty. Milo dreamed of the lake, the trees, and the small campfire glowing safely. He knew that knowledge, patience, and calm communication were powerful tools. They could solve problems, prevent conflicts, and ensure that people could enjoy nature safely and peacefully. Milo woke the next morning ready to continue his quiet work by the lake. He planned to follow up with the HOA politely, share safety tips, and continue enjoying the calm of the water. Milo felt a deep sense of purpose. This lake was not only a place of relaxation for him, but also a place to help others understand how to respect public land and enjoy it responsibly. By the time the sun rose high in the sky, Milo had organized his notes, written down key facts, and prepared to send his letter to the HOA. He felt confident that clear communication and documented evidence would prevent further misunderstandings. The lake remained calm and inviting, a symbol of peace and wisdom in the midst of small conflicts. Milo smiled, knowing that he had handled the situation responsibly, and the lessons of this experience would stay with him for many years. The morning sun rose over the lake, casting a soft golden light across the water. Milo stepped outside his cabin feeling calm but alert. He knew that today could be important. The HOA had called the police over a small, safe campfire, and although the officers had confirmed that he was not breaking any law, the HOA still seemed determined to make their presence felt. Milo decided he needed to act carefully, using facts and patience rather than anger. After breakfast, Milo reviewed the documents he had collected from the town office. The property maps were clear. The lake and the surrounding area were public property, and the HOA's jurisdiction ended well before the shoreline. Milo double-checked every line on the maps, comparing them to the view from his cabin and the paths around the lake. Everything confirmed what he had always known. He felt reassured but also realized that some people acted without checking facts, which could create unnecessary conflicts. Milo decided to write a second letter to the HOA. This time, he included a polite warning about their repeated complaints. He explained that he had already provided evidence confirming the property lines, and that continued interference could cause unnecessary concern for the town authorities. Milo's tone was calm and professional. He avoided any words that could seem aggressive or confrontational. His goal was to educate, not to provoke. After finishing the letter, Milo prepared to send it. He included copies of the official maps and property deeds carefully organized. He also added a brief note about fire safety, suggesting that responsible fires could be allowed on public land if proper precautions were taken. Milo hoped this would demonstrate his good intentions and encourage the HOA to focus on their own neighborhood rather than public areas. By late morning, Milo decided to take a walk along the shore. He wanted to observe the area carefully, noting any signs of activity from the HOA. As he walked, he saw some footprints along the path. They were fresh and led from the edge of the HOA neighborhood toward the lake. Milo realized that someone from the HOA might have come early to check the area. He noted this carefully in his notebook, making sure to record distances and times. He wanted a clear record of all activity. While walking, Milo also thought about ways to show the public that the lake was open and safe. He had an idea. He would organize a small community picnic by the lake. The goal was simple: show that the area was safe, public, and welcoming to everyone. Milo imagined families arriving with blankets and food, children playing, and neighbors enjoying the calm water. He felt excited at the thought of turning this small conflict into a positive event. Returning to his cabin, Milo began preparations. He packed blankets, extra firewood, and some simple games for children. He also wrote a short notice to local friends and neighbors, inviting them to join the picnic. The note explained that the lake was public property, safe for small campfires, and a place for the community to gather peacefully. Milo wanted to make sure that everyone knew the boundaries and respected the area. By early afternoon, visitors began arriving. Families, friends, and a few neighbors from nearby towns walked along the paths to the lake. Milo greeted each group warmly, pointing out safe spots for picnics and explaining how to manage small fires responsibly. He noticed the joy on everyone's faces. Children ran along the shore, laughing and playing, while adults set up blankets and shared food. Milo felt a deep sense of satisfaction. During the picnic, Milo gave a brief talk about fire safety. He explained how to build a small fire, keep it contained, and extinguish it completely. He also talked about the importance of understanding public and private boundaries. The audience listened carefully, nodding as they took in the information. Milo realized that education could prevent conflicts and make nature safer and more enjoyable for everyone. While the event continued, Milo noticed a few cars parked near the edge of the HOA neighborhood across the water. He recognized one as belonging to the HOA manager. The manager watched the picnic from a distance, frowning slightly. Milo stayed calm. He had done everything responsibly and had documentation to support his actions. He continued to speak with the visitors, showing them the area and answering questions politely. The picnic lasted several hours. The sun moved across the sky and the lake reflected the changing light. Milo walked among the visitors, making sure the fires were safe and the children were careful near the water. He felt proud of how the community had gathered peacefully. The picnic was not only enjoyable, but also a demonstration that public land could be used responsibly. As the day turned to evening, Milo prepared to light a small fire one last time. He made sure the wood was arranged safely, kept the bucket of water nearby, and lit the fire gently. The flames danced softly, casting a warm glow on the water. Families sat nearby, talking quietly and enjoying the peaceful moment. Milo watched the reflection of the fire in the lake and felt a deep sense of contentment. During the fire, Milo spoke briefly with the visitors about the importance of respecting both nature and private property. He explained that conflicts could often be avoided by knowing the facts, following simple rules, and communicating calmly. The audience listened carefully. Milo realized that this small event had become more than a picnic. It was a lesson in responsibility, respect, and community. As night fell, the last visitors packed up and left. Milo stayed by the fire for a while longer, watching the stars appear in the sky. The lake reflected the twinkling lights, creating a peaceful mirror image. Milo thought about the HOA and their reaction. He knew that some people acted out of habit or fear, but he also understood that patience, knowledge, and calm communication could prevent problems. Milo felt satisfied with the day's events. He had shown the community that the lake was safe and public. He had educated people about fire safety and boundaries. Most importantly, he had remained calm and responsible throughout the conflict. Milo understood that peace did not come from avoiding problems, but from handling them thoughtfully and respectfully. Before going to sleep, Milo wrote a few notes in his notebook. He recorded the activities of the day, observations of the HOA's presence, and reflections on how the community responded. He also made a plan for future visits, including more educational activities for visitors and ways to continue sharing knowledge about public land and safety. Milo wanted to ensure that the lake remained a peaceful place for everyone. That night, Milo lay in bed listening to the gentle sounds of the lake. The water rippled softly and the air smelled fresh and clean. Milo felt calm, knowing that he had done everything responsibly. He dreamed of the lake, the picnic, and the small fires glowing safely along the shore. He knew that by staying calm, informed, and respectful, he could prevent misunderstandings and protect this special place for years to come. Milo also thought about the future. He wanted to continue gathering facts about property boundaries, fire safety, and community education. He knew that small conflicts like the one with the HOA could be solved with knowledge, patience, and polite communication. The lake had taught him a valuable lesson about responsibility, and he intended to share that lesson with everyone who visited. As the stars reflected in the water, Milo smiled. The conflict with the HOA had not ruined his weekend or his love for the lake. Instead, it had shown him the importance of preparation, understanding, and calm action. Milo felt ready for whatever might come next, confident that he could handle any situation with respect and intelligence. The lake remained peaceful, a mirror of Milo's thoughts. The small campfire burned gently and the night was calm. Milo knew that tomorrow could bring new challenges, but he also knew that with patience, knowledge, and care, he could face them successfully. For now, he closed his eyes, feeling content and safe in the quiet beauty of the lake he loved so much. The morning sun rose over the lake, casting a gentle glow across the water. Milo woke feeling calm and ready. After the picnic and the events of the previous day, he had realized that knowledge, patience, and respect were more powerful than confrontation. Today, he wanted to take the next step. He planned to follow up officially with the HOA and make sure the town authorities knew the full story. After breakfast, Milo gathered all his documents. He had maps of the lake and the surrounding public land, official property records from the town office, and notes from his careful observations. He also included photographs of the picnic from yesterday, showing families, children, and safely managed campfires. Milo believed that clear evidence could prevent future misunderstandings and show that he had acted responsibly. He walked to the town office once again. The clerk greeted him warmly and asked how he was doing. Milo explained that he wanted to submit his documents as a formal report. He carefully explained the sequence of events: the initial complaint to the HOA, the police visit, the picnic, and the community gathering. Milo emphasized that all activities were safe and respectful, and that the lake was public property. The clerk reviewed the documents and maps, nodding. "This is very clear," she said. "The town will review the HOA's actions, and they will be notified that they overstepped their boundaries. You have done everything responsibly." Milo felt relieved. It was satisfying to see that careful preparation and patience could lead to a fair outcome. Returning to the cabin, Milo sat by the lake and reflected on everything that had happened. The HOA had acted hastily, calling the police without checking property lines. Milo had remained calm, gathered evidence, and educated others about safety and boundaries. The community picnic had been a success, showing that public land could be used responsibly. Milo felt proud that he had handled the situation with patience and care. Later in the day, Milo received a letter from the town office. The letter confirmed that the HOA had no authority over the lake or surrounding land. It reminded the HOA that public property was protected and that interference beyond their neighborhood boundaries was not allowed. The town officials also suggested that any future complaints be verified before involving authorities. Milo smiled as he read the letter. Justice had been done, and peace had been restored. Milo decided to share the news with the community. He wrote a short note explaining that the lake was public, safe, and welcoming. He thanked everyone who had attended the picnic and reminded them to enjoy nature responsibly. Milo emphasized fire safety and respect for boundaries. The message was well received, and several neighbors expressed gratitude for his careful guidance. That evening, Milo prepared for another small campfire. The sun set slowly, painting the sky with warm shades of orange and pink. Milo arranged the wood carefully, keeping the bucket of water nearby, and lit the fire. The flames danced gently, reflecting on the calm water. Milo sat on a log, enjoying the peace he had helped protect. As he watched the fire, Milo thought about the lessons he had learned. Conflicts often arose from fear or misunderstanding, but they could be resolved with calm communication, evidence, and respect. By remaining patient, he had not only protected his right to enjoy the lake but also educated the community and the HOA about proper boundaries and safety. Milo realized that patience and knowledge were tools more powerful than anger or frustration. Later that night, Milo invited a few friends who lived nearby to join him at the lake. They brought blankets, snacks, and lanterns. Together, they sat around the small fire, talking quietly and enjoying the reflection of stars in the water. Milo shared his experiences, explaining how to enjoy public land responsibly and the importance of understanding boundaries. His friends listened carefully and appreciated his guidance. The group stayed by the lake for several hours, enjoying the calm night. Milo felt a deep sense of contentment. The picnic, the letters, and the official confirmation from the town had all combined to restore peace. The lake remained a place of calm and beauty, open to all who wanted to enjoy it responsibly. Milo realized that his efforts had strengthened the sense of community and respect for nature. As the night grew darker, Milo and his friends packed up their belongings and left the lake. The fire was completely extinguished, leaving no trace behind. Milo walked back to his cabin, feeling satisfied. The lake was safe, the community was informed, and the HOA had been reminded of their limits. Milo knew that future visitors would benefit from the lessons he had shared. The next morning, Milo walked along the lake once more. He observed the water, the trees, and the soft paths where children had played. Everything looked peaceful. Milo felt proud that he had handled the situation with care and intelligence. He knew that his calm approach had prevented unnecessary conflict and had created a safe, enjoyable environment for everyone. Milo also thought about the importance of ongoing education. He planned to create a small guide for visitors to the lake, explaining fire safety, respect for boundaries, and how to enjoy nature responsibly. He wanted to ensure that everyone could have a positive experience and that the lessons from this conflict would continue to benefit the community. By afternoon, Milo returned to his cabin and began writing the guide. He included clear instructions, illustrations, and safety tips. He also added notes about respecting private property and understanding local rules. Milo worked carefully, knowing that this guide could prevent future misunderstandings and help people enjoy the lake safely. As the sun began to set once more, Milo prepared for a final small fire for the evening. The flames glowed warmly, reflecting on the water and casting a peaceful light across the shore. Milo sat on a log, watching the fire and thinking about the journey over the past few days. From the initial HOA complaint to the police visit, the investigation, the picnic, and the town's confirmation, Milo had handled everything responsibly and calmly. The stars appeared in the sky, mirrored perfectly in the lake. Milo felt a sense of peace and accomplishment. The HOA's overreach had been addressed, the community had learned about safety and boundaries, and the lake remained a public haven. Milo smiled, knowing that patience, knowledge, and respect had brought justice and peace. Before going to bed, Milo wrote a few final notes in his notebook. He reflected on the importance of staying calm in difficult situations and the power of knowledge in resolving conflicts. He also made plans for future visits, educational activities, and ways to ensure the lake remained a safe and enjoyable place for all. Milo felt content knowing that his careful and responsible actions had created a positive impact. As he lay in bed, listening to the gentle lapping of the water, Milo thought about the value of nature and the importance of community. The lake had taught him lessons about patience, responsibility, and calm action. He knew that he had not only protected his own enjoyment of the lake, but had also helped others understand how to use public land safely. Milo drifted into sleep with a sense of satisfaction. The lake remained peaceful, the small fires were safe, and the community had learned valuable lessons. He felt confident that the future would hold continued calm and respect for the area. Milo knew that his actions had made a difference, and that the lake would remain a place of joy and learning for years to come. The next morning, Milo stepped outside one last time before leaving for the week. The water shimmered under the early sun, the trees whispered in the wind, and the air smelled fresh and clean. Milo smiled, knowing that the lake was safe. The HOA had been reminded of their limits, and the community had learned important lessons. He felt proud that he had handled the situation with patience, knowledge, and respect. Milo packed his belongings, took one last look at the calm lake, and walked back toward the town. He carried with him a sense of peace, confidence, and satisfaction. The events over the past days had taught him that calm action, careful planning, and respect for rules could solve even difficult conflicts. The lake remained a symbol of patience, wisdom, and the beauty of nature.